Hey, this is Angus Fairbairn of Boss Fitness, and welcome to this video where I'm going to be showing some nice love to 5 key food items that chances are that you've been avoiding, whether it's from your PT that's told you to avoid, or maybe it's from a meal plan that you're doing, or from a diet that you've come across on the net, or maybe just that you're avoiding it because you've been reading it in magazines or on social media. So this is going to hopefully open up your eyes to, I guess, exactly how simple fat loss can be, and about how awesome it can be as well on a day-to-day basis, and that you don't have to cut out all these various food items just to try and get better results. So our very first one together is sugar. So sugar is something which has been demonized for some time. First it was gluten, first it was this, first it was that, and now sugar is the one which is getting all the hate. So I've talked about sugar on various occasions, and usually what it just comes down to is just through the fact that it's being demonized and receiving bad publicity as something which is causing weight gain, as something which is causing diabetes, as something which is causing poor health. But really the only thing that is causing people to gain weight and to gain poor health and whatever is just because they're not getting in the right balance of energy overall that the body actually needs, and because the overall intake of vitamins and minerals and nutrients is very poor. So sugar as a whole, first and foremost, is pretty much just a carb. The body actually enjoys carbs, it needs it for energy, so sugar can give the body a great source of energy as well. But the thing to note here is that sugar, say compared to the carbs that are in a potato, is a simple carb compared to a complex carb. So a complex carb meaning that it takes your body some extra time to break down, whereas to get down to a single sort of simple form. Whereas sugar, it already comes in a simple form, so it will give you energy, but it isn't going to be long lasting, kind of like the energy that comes from potato or pasta or whatever. So what this means is that in terms of you cutting it out, or whether you keep it in, that comes down to solely personal preference. So if you don't like sweet things and you maybe have a bit of a savoury tooth and couldn't give two hoots about eating sugar and sweet things, well then hey, by all means cut out sugar if you want to, but it's not going to actually boost your your results or how much progress you're getting just because you decide to cut it out. What matters most for fat loss overall, in terms of, I guess, body composition and aesthetics wise, is overall energy and macronutrient intake. So that means that you can go about hitting your personal targets with or without sugar. That comes down entirely to you. So what this means is that I'm not promoting you just, go crazy eating sugar and whatever. Obviously, the only way that sugar can ever really be bad is if you consume copious amounts of it in one shot. So because most of us, we are focusing on eating relatively clean and healthy and whatever, this means that if you're having, say, spaces of sugar and, whether it's chocolate or various desserts or yum stuff like that, say every night, for example, this is going to cause you no harm whatsoever. So the next one that I found that people are avoiding like the plague is soy. So this is actually a legume that came from South Asia, and is something which is a bit funny because, to me personally, which is because I see many vegans and vegetarians and stuff getting amongst sort of soy-based protein and soy this and soy that, yet many other people are just trying to avoid it because they think that it's bad due to it being hydrogenated in certain aspects and stuff like that. But really, in terms of soy as a whole, it is really cool because it is a complete source of proteins. In other words, it's very bioavailable with it being a plant. Your cells in your body will actually register and pick it up as it's sort of seeing the nutrients come in. Whereas let's say that you were trying to get, say certain vitamins and minerals that are found within soy from like a multivitamin or something like that, your body would actually reject the nutrients that are within that actual pill or powder or whatever, simply because the nutrients aren't bioavailable, they're artificial and sort of synthetic and whatever, synthetic. So if your body sort of sees that, sort of goes and doesn't actually register and pick it up. Whereas say with soy, your body's just like, yes, it's got good stuff and it's going to use it accordingly. So this means that in terms of just whether you should cut it out or not, it comes down entirely to personal preference. So our next one, which we're going to be focusing on, is MSG, which stands for monosodium glutamate. So MSG is something which has been used in particularly sort of savoury Asian dishes and stuff to make them basically taste better. And in terms of where they come from, it sort of came about by the Japanese sort of taking it out of kelp, and therefore forming sort of what we see in soy sauce and dishes and stuff like that. But in terms of, is it bad for you? By no means is it. So if you're sort of like, say for example, you go into a Chinese restaurant, typically it will appear in most dishes, and sort of whether it's something savoury or something sort of intense, like whether it's like a noodle soup or like a chicken satay with rice or whatever. If you're going to a quality Asian restaurant or Chinese restaurant, you will still feel very good and fine after eating a meal that has MSG, whereas there's various sort of dodgy levels of how they've gone about the process of putting in MSG, which are in, say, like super duper cheap sort of Chinese takeaway and stuff. That's when you'll actually feel that the type feeling from the MSG, which is in the actual food. So in those cases, that's when I'd say to just make a request for when you're ordering the food, say, can you please take out the MSG, and then just enjoy the meal as a whole. But in terms of health risks or benefits and things like that, really doesn't really do too much at all. It comes down to entirely personal preference and how you know your body responding to it as a whole. So the next one is being meat, in terms of what people are trying to avoid. So obviously, yes, in today's society, we've got a lot of different sort of religious and spiritual food values and things going on. There's people that are vegan, vegetarian, Presbyterian, this, that, and the other. And a lot of the time, yes, these people are doing it in regard to just personal values or religious values or whatever, but then there's people that are doing it just for the sake of it. So obviously, yes, sort of people can be concerned about, say, the welfare of animals and about sort of if they've been poorly treated and stuff, or maybe they're even thinking that we are sort of not born or made as a human race to actually be in any need of eating meat at all, and that we should just live at peace with animals. So whatever your values are in sort of the bigger spectrum of things, that's cool. You can have those values. It's totally fine, and I respect it if you are a vegan watching this or a vegetarian. Hats off to you, because I definitely couldn't do it. Obviously, yes, I love animals, and I myself would never be able to kill a chicken or slit the throat of a pig or whatever. But in terms of just like the benefits of eating meat, it is just sort of two-found. Obviously, meat contains essential amino acids. It contains essential vitamins and minerals that can't be found in other plants or in other sort of sources. So it is a very good turn to be able to meet personal protein requirements, as well as making you feel good and supporting muscle growth and muscle maintenance. But same deal. Like if you're someone that is a vegetarian or is a vegan, well then obviously you will be cutting out meat. But if you're just doing it just for the sake of trying to boost fat loss or to make yourself feel better, well then hey, there's not really any need. Because many people will be scared off with the fact that hey, there's a bit of a thing going around where people are thinking that if you're eating super high protein and then very low amount of fruits and vegetables, that it causes cancer or whatever. But you need to remember that anything can cause cancer if you're ingesting massive amounts of it in one shot. So obviously it's not ideal to be pumping down and just chowing down on a truckload of protein and not having any plants, because this will put your body into an acidic state. We want to make sure that we keep you as alkaline as possible, and that will only come through including a wide variety of fruits and vegetables in your day-to-day eating. So moral of the story here is just to make sure that really, if you are you're sort of at peace with meat, well then hey, eat it, have wide varieties of it on a daily basis, whether it's white or red or poultry or fish, seafood, whatever. Keep it personal and just enjoy it, knowing that it can help you reach your goals regardless if you choose to cut it out or not. And our last one together is aspartame. So aspartame is something which has been demonized heaps lately, and that's simply because of the fact that it comes into correlation with sugar, and the fact that people think that just because it comes from sugar, or that it's a chemical or whatever, that it can cause massive harmful effects. Methyl ester, 1965, James Schlatter. Methyl ester, 1965, James Schlatter. Methyl ester, 1965, James Schlatter. So aspartame is actually a methyl ester which was sort of discovered by a main man called James Schlatter in 1965, as he was sort of cruising through his newspaper. He managed to get some hold of it, and he licked his finger and he was just like, damn, it's sweet. And the rest is sort of history since then. So in terms of just, I guess, why I sort of see it as something that's pretty cool is that, say, aspartame compared to regular sugar, it's 200 times sweeter when you work it into its ratio. So what this means is that you can easily make something taste very sweet without the calories that will normally come from sugar. So by no means there am I saying to cut out sugar and whatever, as I sort of said before at the beginning when we said that nothing is wrong with sugar. Aspartame is just a lower calorie / no calorie version of being able to make anything taste sweet, and you sort of spice up certain dishes and things that you're eating and drinking. So there's nothing wrong with including these sort of artificial sweeteners in your actual diet. Similar to these other things that you've learnt so far, the only way that something can actually be very bad for you is if you consume copious amounts of it in one shot. So this means that you can be having, these diet soft drinks. You can be having, sort of Coke Zero. You can be having this. You can be having that, as long as it fits within your overall calorie sort of requirements, and you're feeling really good in terms of your nutrition as you're going along. Me personally, I like to have a Coke Zero every now and then, usually one every 2 days or so, just as a means of a filler between meals. Because let's say, for example, that you've got your lunch, planned, you've eaten it, but then you're just like, man, I'm feeling pretty hungry, and it's only 2 o'clock, and I know that I normally like to eat at 4 o'clock next, and that you've already got your food planned ahead or whatever. So having a Coke Zero, at say 1:30 or 2 o'clock or whatever, is going to be a great bridge between keeping you full and just, satiated between those 2 meals, so that you don't have a binge. But if you know that, say for example, these diet drinks or whatever are a bit of a trigger food for you, in the fact that it just causes you to then go instantly to slamming, chips, or instantly to slamming a chocolate or whatever, then you probably want to try and reduce it or eliminate it in that aspect. But as a whole, we've covered some great insights into your sort of 5 key foods or food items which people are cutting out just to try and achieve greater fat loss. But hopefully what you've come to understand is that, fat loss can be a really enjoyable journey. It doesn't have to be one where it's full of restrictions and just full of cutting out stuff. Remember that your body sees energy as a whole, meaning that energy is energy no matter where it comes from. The differentiating factor between foods is obviously the nutrient intake. So this means that you can be mixing up foods as much or as little as you like, just making sure that at the end of the day you're being consistent in supplying the body how much energy it needs, and it will flourish. What I'd love for you to do is, as you'll see in the text below, is to, if you've got any questions, feel free to jot them below. I'd love to keep the conversation going and show some love to you. And if you feel that you need some personal love or some more help or kick up the bum in applying these things into your life and establishing more flexibility in your eating without the means of restriction, well then click below as well and you'll see access to my female fat loss ultimate survival guide to melt fat to tone muscle, which is on mega special at the moment. This will give you some awesome insight and some action steps that you can be applying right away to get fat loss happening, and so that you can enjoy what I like to call food freedom for greater fat loss, as you'll see with the image just here. But thanks so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed this video, that you've enjoyed this blog post, and that it's opened your eyes to just how awesome fat loss can be. I'll see you next time. Take care.